Hello and welcome to the Story Behind the Stories, your weekly look at the pages of the Neepawa Banner Press. Thank you very much for taking a little bit of your time and spending it here with us on NAC TV. I'm Eoin, Devereux, news reporter with the Banner Press, welcoming you to the show once again, joined this week by Casper Wehrhahn. Casper, good to have you in this week.
Good to be here once again and going through yet another edition of this paper.
Most definitely, and we seem to be going through at a relatively quick pace. 2023 really feels like it's really started to fly by. Perhaps as the things got a little bit colder, we got into the fall, getting closer and closer to the winter. It's just that little momentum thing picks up, or maybe it's just me.
No, it certainly feels that way. I mean, this year as a whole really has just flown by, and in recent months, it's really picked up in terms of activity as well going on in our coverage area, which also makes things fly by because there's so much to do. But yeah, it really just has kind of soared into getting close to winter weather and winter months, so I'm like,
it's
ooh.
beginning to feel a lot like Christmas.
Yes.
But we're going to get there soon enough. Let's take a quick stop though in October and some of the fun festivities that are going on right here, right now. And you can find those right on the front page. We are very pleased and very thankful that Clearview Stock Farm was able to send us a few pictures from the plowing competition that occurred just south of Brandon recently. Thank you very much. Some very dynamic pictures. As soon as I saw this front page one here, Jason McGee's the young man from Clearview Stock Farm who is part of that picture. I thought that's a dynamic angle. It's an interesting picture. All the other stories, for the most part, that we have this week don't have that one certain sort of je ne sais quoi, whatever you want to call it. Because when you're writing for a newspaper, obviously you want the facts, you want the news, you want the details, the words. But as well, you do need a visual dynamic to go along with it. And some weeks are much easier than others. We're very fortunate that we live in a community where we have a photographer such as Jody Baker, for example, who has bailed us out on more than one occasion with an incredible picture. So that's always appreciated. And then there's other times where the story and the visual that goes with it are just, they're so important, they're so significant, it's no doubt that they're going to end up on the front page. So that's that one little quirk about a newspaper. When I used to work in radio, we didn't have to worry about pictures, we had to worry about sounds. But with this one, we got to get a little more visual and interesting with our sort of what we come up with, don't we?
Absolutely, we do. Yeah, it's, we want the big stories on the front, but we really do need that visual there as well to help pull people in and pick up the paper, because the paper is a very strong visual piece, in addition to having all the words that we need to have on there, all the news we need to have on there. And yeah, this picture from Clearview Stock Farm really is just such a great perspective of this activity going on. So I'm very appreciative of having that photo on the front page, no less.
A good example as well this week of the importance of a story comparatively to the visual dynamic that goes along with it is actually the story we have right next to it on the front page. A road rage type incident in Minnedosa recently occurred. We thank the RCMP in Minnedosa for getting those details out to us in a prompt period of time and getting the information to us before we went to print, because this is something everyone in Minnedosa over the last few days has been talking about. They've been curious about what sparked it, who was it, all those sorts of things. RCMP didn't release the names of the individual, and that is their prerogative to do so if they feel it's under whatever circumstances it may be. So we've had one or two people ask us, do you know who it was? And it's like, no, unfortunately we don't. But I'm sure in the coffee shops of Minnedosa right now, Casper, they're probably talking about, well, it's probably so-and-so's boy or so-and-so who was, or whatever, because you can't ever stop gossip at a coffee shop, no matter what.
Yeah, it definitely happens, yes, and of course, with the nature of the incident, of course, the report says that both individuals are from Minnedosa, so small town, people know people a lot more than you would in a larger city, so people probably do know who it is. But again, the report just gives what they're able to give, and that's that. One thing we should probably make mention of in the show as well, it does say in the story, but for people who don't know, likely, and there are people that are expressing concerns about the release of the individual because he was released from custody. They might be wanting to make their concerns known.
Yeah.
But it is not a decision of the RCMP to release the individual. It was a decision of the court. So just for people who might not know, it doesn't really work that way. That's an RCMP decision. It is a court decision. So just be aware of that.
That's right. And most importantly as well, we're going to go over some of the details with you, but we're not going to give it all away right here. That's why you got to pick up a copy of the Neepawa Banner Press so that you can see all the information for yourself. It was a 21-year-old individual from the Minnedosa area that was arrested, and it's such an interesting thing. Just a little bit of the story. There was a fire along Minnedosa Beach, and an individual in their SUV was driving along. They saw the fire, and they saw that it appeared to be unattended. So they went down there, checked around to see if there was anyone there, and in the order of community safety and whatnot, they put the fire out. And as that occurred, as they were heading back to their vehicle, they noticed another vehicle in the distance flash the lights at them. So that's unusual. That's a little strange. And then when the person got back into their vehicle, that's when the chase, I don't know whether you want to call it a chase, I guess you could call it a road rage incident because there was physical contact between the two vehicles. And again, we're not going to delve too deep into it. One individual, luckily, the gentleman in the SUV was not seriously injured from the incident, was able to get away from the circumstances that they found themselves in, the unexpected circumstances they found themselves in, because who honestly expects something like this to happen in a small town? I hate to say it, but unfortunately the averages seem to normalize it a little bit. In a larger city with a lot of traffic, you do see road rage incidents on a more consistent uptick. You don't expect it in a small town where it takes like 30 seconds to get from point A to point B. You don't even have time to get angry. You wouldn't think. No. But apparently you can in a small town as well, which again, when I saw that come through the wire, I was genuinely, it's like, oh, that is surprising. What was your take on it, Casper?
I was definitely shocked as well, and it's unfortunate too because the victim in this case was looking out for the community, of course, just being a good Samaritan and getting out to put out that unattended fire, which is something you'd want to happen. You don't want a fire to go unattended, and anything can happen in that scenario.
That's
right?
True.
So it just, I think of, I guess, a little bit other scenarios similar to that, maybe not the exact same, but similar to that, where people might want to do this, but then they think twice because something like this has occurred.
Yeah.
So maybe they don't go out and put out that fire and something else happens. Yeah. But, it's unfortunate that we have to think about the safety of doing simple things like that.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those things of, I hate to say it, but it's true, and you're probably thinking it out there as well. Some people are idiots, and some people are just looking for trouble. That's the reality of society nowadays. Sometimes you can do all the right things and still get chased down in a car because of it. That's society. It's a little weird. It's a little kooky. It's a little out there from time to time, but we muddle through. Let's double back to what we were talking about initially about the front page, because we did receive a picture with the RCMP release of the vehicle in question, the SUV of the victim, which was damaged. It was fine. It was okay. But, respectfully, some RCMP officers are not photographers. Heck, even I'm barely a photographer. Quite honestly, whenever I keep my thumb out of the picture, I'm happy. But it just wasn't a visually dynamic picture. It explained the situation of the SUV, when it was located, when it was ditched and whatnot, but it wasn't front page worthy. It just wasn't that one standalone. That's why we have the plowing photos on there as well, because that was an interesting visual dynamic. But we did feel that the RCMP story and the incident in Minnedosa was most certainly worthy of being on our front page. And I hate to say it, because media does get a little bit of flack from time to time for sensationalizing things. And it's especially true in national media. The United States, their broadcasts and their media, and to a degree on a national level for Canada. A lot of people will say that they sensationalize things, they blow them out of proportion. We try not to do that. We try and just tell it straight down the middle. But I do have to apologize if you think the headline is a little sensational. Road rage in Minnedosa. Sometimes you do got to grab somebody's attention with that headline. And I felt like that was one of those ones that would most definitely grab your attention and intrigue you to read a little bit more. All the information in the story is factual, and all the information provided by the RCMP has not been blown out of proportion. I assure you of that. It tells the facts, it tells it straight down the middle. But every once in a while you're going to use a headline that you want to sort of pique people's interest. So that was my fault this week. So if you feel like I was sensationalizing a little bit, I do apologize for that. But sometimes you need to sort of go big to get somebody's attention. So hopefully you'll take a few minutes, read the story. It's on page 1, continues on to page 7, and explains everything that happened and how things are playing out from here. All right, let's get off the front page here and let's get into something a little more fun on page 2. And we always love to be able to showcase some of the amazing art exhibits that go on at Arts Forward right here in Neepawa. Every few months they'll bring in a new artist, perhaps a local artist, perhaps someone from the surrounding area who has intriguing concepts that they want to share with the community. And Casper, you were able to track that down and get some information on the latest one from someone very familiar to us all here in Neepawa.
Certainly, yeah, very familiar. Many people will know Ron Nordstrom, whether it's from, I believe he's involved with Rotary, if I remember correctly, and many other things over the years. But he has done a lot of work with photography in the past, and still is, of course. And he was actually the featured artist, or I should say is the featured artist right now at Arts Forward, with a bit of a unique exhibit titled Perspectives. He's sort of going through things that he has captured over the years in his photography and going at it from a bit of a different angle. It goes into a bit more detail in the story here, but he began exploring this process throughout COVID because he needed something new to do.
Didn't we all?
Yeah, absolutely. And came across this process of manipulating the photographs that he took with a variety of editing tools to give them more of a different look, more of a digitally painted feel to it, and that really is quite what it is. A lot of work goes into these, and we have a sample of his work on that page, and he really just does bring out a lot of color in them where maybe there wasn't quite enough color before, and sort of just enhancing that. And it's got a lot of movement as well, I feel. He takes inspiration from a variety of different artists, one of those being Van Gogh. So you can see a bit of that inspiration in some of his works, and a particular style of painting as well that happens to be his favorite, that being palette knife painting, which really does give it a unique texture to it, a unique movement. At least that's how I felt anyway, going through the gallery. And I really can't put it to words quite enough just how I guess, wonderful it is. So definitely go down there at Arts Forward to check out the exhibit for yourself. Look on the page 2 here in the paper for more details and a bit more insight into Ron's work.
It's very interesting, and it brings up something I was just thinking about, Casper, as you were speaking on that, is about the perspective of the artist. I mean, an artist can take something, a creation, and then innovate it and add to it and create a completely different aesthetic to their original concept, which is the importance of having a actual artist behind it. Because everybody's talking nowadays so much about AI art. AI writing, all those little things. It's like, yes, a computer can make a painting right now, but can they take that perspective and personalize it? No, they can't. Yes, a computer can write, well, I'll use this. A computer can write a news article, but can it put that personal perspective of the writer within it? No, it can't. You can tell the difference. You can still tell the difference between a written article from an AI and from a person. Well, I'll use me as an example. You know, you'll know it's a story for me because it's filled with some spelling and grammatical errors and sarcasm. That's my gimmick. You gotta do what you do. But as well, it's sort of that perspective of a creator trying to create. And Ron did something very interesting with that. He took his original visuals, his original art, and viewed it in a completely different perspective, and it really came through. He talks about in the story as well how he went through so many of them, and when you make those alterations, it doesn't always work.
Yeah, absolutely. You can go through and get a result that you really like on one piece and be like, okay, I really like this result. I'll try and mimic that in another piece. And just with the piece that it is, it won't work out. So you need to go through and do a whole new process for that particular piece. So it really is an exploration and experiment every single time you go through an editing process like this, which is really fascinating. And I mean, I guess that can be said for any actual like physical art as well, whether you're doing pencils or painting, etc. So it's really neat to see that applied to a digital format, because we do have a lot of people out there who do digital artwork, digital painting, for a variety of different things, whether it be for game concepts, etc. But we don't see it quite as much being done in terms of editing your own photographs, at least in this manner. So it's really fascinating to see that view on it.
It's very interesting, and if you'd like to get a visual look at it, it is down at Arts Forward, so most definitely take a little bit of time, go down there and see it for yourself. Let's shift over a little further down the way, a little further down the street from Arts Forward over to the Yellowhead Center. This is a story I feel like I've written before, because I have written it before, and before, and before, and before. But this time for sure, I'm sure it'll stick. We have ourselves a new Yellowhead manager. Bill Sirik has been confirmed as taking over as the manager of operations for the volunteer-run facility right here in Neepawa. You may be wondering, wait a minute, didn't you just write that story about a month ago, about 5-6 weeks ago? With Yvonne Sisley, and yes, that is true, but Yvonne has moved on. An opportunity presented itself that she just could not turn down, and that's understandable. When you get an opportunity at something you love, something you're engaged by, you definitely have to jump at that. So no fault for her taking that opportunity. And it was Lindsay who was in there beforehand, and then beforehand it was Chris Turner. And I've written all those stories about all those individuals. I remember because I was looking through my archives and thinking, how am I going to come up with a creative and different way of saying the same thing we said 5 weeks ago, and 2 years ago, and 7 years ago? How are we going to do that? But I think I may have found a way, more or less. But it always depends on the person you're writing about. And anyone who knows Bill Sirik knows he's got his own particular style and dynamic when it comes to these types of things. He's very engaged within the community. You'll always see him down running around all over the place at the Yellowhead Center during the Neepawa Titans game. He is the one that has really powered through and put together that visual dynamic, the pregame warm-ups that really have taken things to another level for the Neepawa Titans. And he's also the owner and operator of Creation Station. It's the online news, music outlet that he operates. If I remember correctly, I believe that the story behind the stories actually does run on a regular basis on the Creation Station. So if you're listening, hey, Bill, keep up the good work. And thanks for the interview. Always appreciate that. You shared some of your thoughts on, obviously, where you'd like to see the Yellowhead move forward and progress and be more to the community than just a hockey arena. Because for a lot of communities, that is a meeting place. That is a mecca for communication and sharing. So he sees it in the bigger picture and is very much looking forward to working with the board at the Yellowhead Center to make sure that that bigger picture that he talks about pans out. Now, of course, you can find that story. It's in this week's edition of the Banner Press. If I remember correctly, I believe I got it on page 6, right next to Helen's recipe, a huge, consistent staple, very popular feature that we have in each and every edition of the Banner Press. Well, speaking of traditions, this has turned into a new annual tradition for Neepawa. It's been going on for several years, and it's really taken off. It's the What's the Big Idea program, put together, really powered forward, led by Marilyn Crew with the town of Neepawa. She saw it and saw some value in creating this Dragon's Den style business approach for local businesses to pitch their ideas and to get some assistance and to broaden their horizons. They had their most recent 2023 event here. And Casper, you were able to get down there and get a little bit of the background on that, weren't you?
Certainly was, yes. Great to have this each and every year. Fantastic work by Marilyn on this each current time. And while we weren't able to get quite as involved this year as we have in past years, just due to available persons that we have compared to past years, it was a fantastic event to go and see for the little bit of time that I was able to get down there. And we did have a good sort of variety of different businesses down there this year. We had Katie Martin with her art there, and some other businesses such as Hidden Hollow, which of course we've done a story on before. Stellar Apparel was there, which we also did a story on very recently. Mm-hmm. But then we had businesses such as Little Garden Next Door, growing vegetables indoors for restaurants, neighbors, etc. Yard care service that's looking to get started a bit more. I believe there was one other one, but I can't find it at the time right now. But yeah, and then Neepawa Lanes as well, looking to bring back bowling into Neepawa, which was here for quite a number of times. And then, of course, Evans Lanes sold, I believe, and that's actually where Boston Pizza is now, if I remember correctly. We had, what was it? Was it Tom's Ribs or something there as well?
Yeah, I think you're right, because when I just moved back here to Neepawa is just when the lanes were closing down and they were selling the property. I remember being in there in the building before they tore it down, and it's the one and only time I'd ever been in there, and I looked around, it was like, oh wow, this is surprising. This is genuinely surprising that we'd have something of this magnitude in a community this small, but it had been very popular through the years. The family just sort of stepped away, though, retired, and that's understandable. It'd be interesting to see it come back, although maybe I shouldn't say this. Heck, I'll say. Since when have I never said what I wasn't thinking here? Neepawa, unfortunately, and you know this is true, sometimes really loves an idea and says, oh, I'm going to support this business. Oh, I'm going to support this organization. Oh, I'm going to support this so much. And then a few weeks, a few months into the process, they get tired of the new plaything. All right, don't shoot the messenger. You know it's true from time to time. So I would love to see something like that in Neepawa, as long as we remember to continue to support it. All right? So hopefully you will do that. And hopefully every single one of these businesses will continue to be supported and be able to thrive within our community and within our communities. There was one, again, from Minnedosa. So we got to look out for all these small town businesses. It's very important to support them in each and every way we can. And What's the Big Idea was another great example of that type of support coming through. So you can find that story in this week's paper. Always very pleased to be able to share that experience with you. All right, we only got a few minutes left, so we're going to delve through a couple things sort of shotgun style right now, just a minute or two on each of them. This week's edition of the Banner Press features our Farmer's Advocate, which we have each and every month from about February to November. This week's edition, it is 4 pages in total. Last few months it's only been 2 pages, but it's been 4 pages, just sort of that last end of season information we need to get out into the fields right now, and as well a special page for Manitoba Ag X, which is occurring at the end of this month. Huge event that goes on in Brandon. It always brings in a wide swath of individuals from all across the region. So hopefully if it's something that might pique your interest, you'll be able to go down to Brandon as it's occurring. So you can check out, again, the Farmer's Advocate in the center of our paper, pages 9, 10, 11, and 12. So 4 full pages of farming-related information that I think we all need to take a moment and educate ourselves on. All right, and just before we wrap up, just going to hit the ice really quick. Neepawa Titans had a pair of games last weekend, one of them at home. And don't forget, you can find that on NAC TV. Every single home game for the Neepawa Titans is broadcast on the NAC TV channel. Check your local listings for all those games. They had a lot of local games at home. They played Swan Valley. They played Weyway-Sakapo. So I think they played Verdun as well. Maybe they went to Verdun. It's all blending together for me. That's why you got to check your local listings and find out. Their most recent game didn't go the way we'd hoped against Weyway-Sakapo, but hopefully they'll be able to turn it around the next time they're at home. And the Neepawa Farmers of the Tiger Hills Hockey League, along with the Minnedosa Bombers, they started up their preseason. They played in Neepawa last Saturday. This upcoming Saturday, the 21st, if I remember correctly, they'll be playing in Minnedosa in the brand new Emmerich Center, the brand new arena. I'm actually going to be traveling out there to see that game for myself. I'm very interested to see what it's like there with the ice in and the crowd in there. I think it's going to be very exciting. Minnedosa should be very proud of that new facility. It's an amazing just piece of work that they've put together, and they're going to be able to enjoy for the next 30, 40 some odd years. So if you want to find that, of course, you can find it on the sports page of the Banner Press. There's so much more we could talk about, but there's only so much time in the show each and every week that we can talk about it. That's why you need to pick up a copy of the paper. Isn't that right, Casper? I mean, a physical copy as opposed to the online, although the online helps as well.
Absolutely. Online is great for if for some reason you can't get out to get a physical copy for one reason or another. Maybe you're outside of our distribution area. I know that we have the odd person actually even from different provinces that'll read our paper.
Yep.
But the physical edition of the paper really is a great thing to have. It's our staple,
Yep.
You just can't get quite the same feel of the paper as when you have it right in front of you. So definitely pick that up.
And don't forget, it is on mywestman.ca that you can find the digital version, or you can find the physical copy in Neepawa, Minnedosa, Gladstone, Carberry, Brandon, surrounding region throughout Westman. And if you ever have any story ideas or suggestions for us, you can always give us a call at 476-3401, or contact us via email at news@neepawabanner.com. Your suggestions, your insight is always appreciated. So once again, for Casper, I'm Eoin, and we always appreciate you tuning in to NAC TV each and every week and checking in on the story behind the stories. We'll see you again soon.